You're riding shotgun, the music's low, the road is dark, and the conversation is easy. Suddenly, the flash of red and blue lights fills the car. Your driver pulls over, heart sinking. As the officer approaches, a universal, unspoken anxiety grips everyone inside. What happens now? For the driver, the script is somewhat known: license, registration, possible ticket. But you, the passenger, you're in a legal gray area, a bystander in a confined space that has just become a zone of police authority. Most people assume they have no rights, that they must simply sit silently and wait, subject to whatever unfolds. That assumption is not only wrong, but dangerous. The law carves out a distinct and powerful space for passengers. Your rights are different, but they are not absent. Understanding them is the difference between navigating a stressful situation with dignity and safety and unwittingly surrendering liberties you never had to lose. This article is your comprehensive guide. We will dissect the constitutional framework, walk through every phase of a traffic stop from the passenger's seat, and equip you with the knowledge to act lawfully while protecting your rights. We will move beyond myths and into the nuanced reality where the 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendments meet the asphalt. The constitutional stage, your rights at their foundation. A traffic stop, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, is a seizure under the 4th Amendment for everyone in the vehicle, not just the driver. Brendlin Veers, California, 2007. The moment the car is pulled over, you, the passenger, have been seized by the state. This is the most critical legal concept for a passenger to understand. It means the stop must be justified, based on at least reasonable suspicion of a violation, and it means your rights against unreasonable searches and seizures are activated. However, this seizure is temporary and limited. Your status as a seized passenger does not give the officer automatic authority to search you or demand your identification without additional justification. Your rights spring from 3 key amendments. The 4th Amendment protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. It requires warrants based on probable cause, with well-defined exceptions. For passengers, this governs when you can be searched, when your belongings can be searched, and when you can be ordered out of the car. The 5th Amendment guarantees the right against self-incrimination, the right to remain silent. This is paramount for passengers. You are rarely under any obligation to answer questions about where you're coming from, where you're going, or what you've been doing. The 14th Amendment ensures due process and equal protection under the law. It grounds the principle that your rights cannot be violated arbitrarily. The interplay of these rights on the side of the road is where knowledge becomes power. Second, the stop itself, flash of lights to window. Tap. The initial seizure. As established, you are seized. You generally do not have the right to exit the vehicle or walk away once the stop is initiated, unless explicitly told you can do so. Doing so could be seen as obstructing or escalating the situation. The standard advice is to remain seated, with hands visible, on the dashboard or your lap, to reduce any officer's safety concerns. Identification demands. This is the most common point of confusion. Does a passenger have to show ID? The answer is, it depends entirely on state law. Stop and identify. Statutes. Many states have laws that require individuals to provide identification if an officer has reasonable, articulable suspicion that the person is involved in criminal activity. Simply being a passenger is not, by itself, sufficient suspicion. The officer must have something more. Nervousness alone is not enough. Florida v. Royer, 1983. Other factors might include you matching a suspect description, the smell of contraband emanating from your person, or you engaging in furtive movements. No stop and identify statute. In states without such laws, or in any state where the reasonable suspicion threshold is not met, you, as a passenger, have no legal obligation to provide identification. An officer may ask, but you are not required to comply. Best practice. You can politely ask, "Officer, am I required to provide my ID or am I free to decline?" This clarifies the legal nature of the request. If they state you are required, it is often advisable to comply to avoid arrest for obstruction, even if you believe the demand is unlawful. Your recourse is later, in court. Never argue the law on the roadside. 3. The officer's orders, getting out, searches, and detention ordering passengers out. In a landmark decision, The Supreme Court ruled that during a lawful traffic stop, an officer may, as a matter of course, order all passengers out of the vehicle. Maryland versus Wilson, 1997. This is a bright-line rule for officer safety. You must comply. However, getting out is not consent to be searched. Pat-down, Terry frisk. Once you are out of the car, an officer may perform a pat-down of your outer clothing only if they have a reasonable suspicion that you are armed and dangerous. Terry v. Ohio, 1968. This is not a full search. Its sole purpose is officer safety to check for weapons. They cannot reach into your pockets unless, during the pat-down, they feel an object that is immediately apparent as a weapon, like a gun or contraband, the plain field doctrine, akin to plain view. Search of your person and belongings. For a more intrusive search, going into your pockets, your bag, or your wallet, the officer generally needs probable cause to believe you have committed a crime or are in possession of contraband. Mere suspicion is not enough. You have the right to refuse consent to a search. The magic words are clear and polite. I do not consent to any searches. Saying this does not guarantee they won't search, but it preserves your constitutional claim. If they proceed without probable cause or a warrant exception, any evidence found may be suppressed in court. Search of the vehicle and your items. Inside it. This is complex. If police have probable cause to search the car, e.g. they smell marijuana, they can search the entire vehicle, including containers and bags within it, regardless of ownership. Wyoming v. Houghton, 1999. If your purse or backpack is in the car, it may be searched under this automobile exception. However, if the police are conducting an inventory search after an impound, they must follow strict, neutral procedures. Your verbal non-consent should still be stated for the record. IV. The power of silence and speech. Your right to remain silent. This is your most potent tool. You are not there to help the officer build a case. You must provide your name if legally required, as discussed. But beyond that, you have the Fifth Amendment right to decline to answer questions. Potential questions. Where are you headed? Where have you been? Do you know why I stopped the driver? Do you know if there's anything illegal in the car? Can I search your bag? Recommended responses. Be respectful, but unequivocal. Officer, I choose to remain silent on the advice of counsel. Or, I prefer not to answer any questions, thank you. Silence cannot be used against you in court. Lying, this is a critical warning. You must never lie to a police officer. Lying can constitute a separate crime like obstruction of justice or making false statements. If you don't want to answer, invoke your right to silence. Do not fabricate. The suspense-driven question. Imagine you're a passenger, and after the driver is issued a ticket, the officer turns to you and says, "We've had burglaries in this neighborhood. You fit the description. Empty your pockets for me right now." You know you've done nothing wrong. Do you comply to prove your innocence, or do you refuse, invoking your rights, knowing it might lead to a tense confrontation and possibly your arrest? What would you do, and why? Let us know in the comments. V. When the stop escalates. Detention, arrest, and use of force, prolonged detention. A traffic stop must last no longer than necessary to complete its mission, writing the ticket, etc. If police detain you beyond that time to, for example, wait for a drug-sniffing dog, they must have independent, reasonable suspicion of your involvement in criminal activity. Rodriguez v. United States, 2015. As a passenger, you can ask, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" If you are free to leave, you may calmly walk away. Arrest. An officer can arrest a passenger only if they have probable cause to believe the passenger has committed a crime. This is a high standard. If arrested, state clearly, "I am invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer." Then, stop speaking. Nothing you say after that point will help you. Use of force. Always remain calm and non-threatening. If you believe an officer is using excessive force, do not resist physically. Verbally state your non-resistance. "I am not resisting," and your objection to the force. Seek redress later through internal affairs, complaints, and civil rights lawsuits. The roadside is not the venue to contest force. 6. Special scenarios and marginalized groups. Passengers with outstanding warrants. If police lawfully discover you have an outstanding warrant, e.g., after a lawful ID check, you can be arrested. Minors as passengers. Rights are the same, though police may call parents guardians. Minors should still invoke their right to silence. Non-citizens. The same constitutional rights apply to every person within U.S. jurisdiction. However, non-citizens should be especially cautious and state they wish to speak to an attorney before answering any questions regarding immigration status. BIPOC and marginalized communities. Historical and systemic biases are real. The advice remains legally sound. Know your rights, be impeccably polite, de-escalate, and document everything. The goal is to survive the encounter safely and fight any violations in the legal arena later. 7. The aftermath, documentation, and legal recourse. If you believe your rights were violated, memorize details, badge number, patrol car number, agency, physical description, time, location, get witness info, names and contact info for other passengers or bystanders. File a complaint with the law enforcement agency's Internal Affairs Division. Consult an attorney. A civil rights lawyer can advise on potential lawsuits for unlawful search, seizure, or excessive force. Conclusion: knowledge is the antidote to fear and powerlessness. As a passenger, you are not a mere spectator. You are an individual with constitutionally protected rights that persist even in the confined, stressful theater of a traffic stop. You have the right to remain silent, the right to refuse consent to searches, and the right to be free from unreasonable seizure. Exercising these rights requires calm, clarity, and courage. It is not about being confrontational. It is about being constitutional. By understanding the law, you protect not only yourself, but also help uphold the principles that govern police-citizen interactions for everyone. Call to action. The law is a living conversation, and your awareness is its foundation. If you found this deep dive into your rights valuable, subscribe to the channel now. We provide crucial, lawyer-reviewed breakdowns of the laws that affect your daily life. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your freedom depends on what you know. Let us help you know more. Subscribe today.